Okay, so I was at the thrift store the other day, and on the 50-cent shelf there was this item that was really nothing more than 3 pieces of scrap wood nailed together and painted black. And I picked it up and I put it in my cart, and my friend that was with me gave me this look, and you've probably seen it on your friends' faces too. It was just, what are you thinking? Are you crazy? But I had an idea. I knew that with some IOD molds, some air dry clay, and some milk paint, I could turn it into something beautiful. So I bought it, and I brought it home, and I turned that piece of trash into a treasure. Welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Manda, and this is the Family Affair YouTube channel. We love to take thrifted, found, and discarded items and clean and fix them up, and then turn them into beautiful decor for our home. If that's something that you love too, then stick around. I think you'll like it here.
When I'm working with the molds, I generally use air dry clay. I keep it in a bag, usually double bagged because it does dry out.
This is the Trimmings 1 mold from Ironwork Designs, and I think I'm going to go ahead and start with this one and do around the edges, the top. I do not have a problem in general with my casting sticking inside of my mold. If you do, a little bit of cornstarch inside will help make sure that they can pop out nice and easy. But again, it's not something I generally do. Sometimes it can actually make mine a little too slippery. But if you are having trouble with your sticking, it's a great thing to try. I start out by rolling my clay into a snake. It's a good way to put your kindergarten skills to use. And then I just start at one end and work my way down. Now you can just go ahead and fill the mold and pop it out, and then make another one, and then when you're gluing it onto your piece, you just glue them end to end. However, if you're going to make a long piece to go all the way around like I am, sometimes I also just like to make it continuous. So when I get to the end of my snake, I will roll out a new snake, kind of join them together. Spatula, like an icing spatula, works really great just to scoot along the top here. Now, something I love about the IOD molds is they have this micro rim, and it helps that you can scrape right along there and you get a nice clean backing. So now, without breaking this, I'm going to turn it upside down, kind of let gravity help me here. Just pop it out. Then I'm just going to start here at the end, and they're made to join up end to end in a continuous pattern. So if you're picky about it, you can line them up exactly. I'm not that picky, so I just kind of get it close. And you just keep going. Now here my rope tore, and I'm not even a little bit worried about that because I will just butt it up together and glue it on there. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this on around the edges of this top piece. And this is just Titebond wood glue. My favorite is actually the Titebond Quick and Thick, but it seems to have grown legs and run away from me. I don't know, does your supplies ever do that? So this is the part where it broke, and I'm just gonna butt it right up there next to each other, and you'll never even be able to tell. Now I'm gonna go ahead and give this a few minutes to start to set up. One thing I love about the Quick and Thick is that once it's on there, it just kind of stays. You don't have to really let it set up for a long time. But this the regular wood glue from Titebond does really kind of have to get a minute to sit. So while this is sitting, I'm going to go ahead and work on some pieces for down here. For that, I think I'm going to go ahead and use this Swags. This is one of the first generation, I believe, and I don't know the name of it. I eventually started writing all the names on them, and then I believe on the latest releases they actually have the names already. Super helpful. This is one of the older IOD molds, and I don't know the name of it. If you do know the name, let me know in the comments because I would love to find out. So I'm actually going to use this one. And then I think I'm going to do one of the birds from the bird song. Okay guys, so all we've done is continue to add moldings around the edges, draped across the front, covering up this bracket in the back, and then I've just given them a chance to dry a bit. I used some more of the rose swag, and then I used the scrolls from the first generation Nautica mold. So this is mostly dry. It's a little bit, some of the molds are a little bit damp still. You can paint them wet. I do it more than I ought. It's probably a lot better to let it dry. But you can paint it wet. Just be careful that you're not pushing hard. So I'm just going to use some black chalk type paint and cover up these molds a bit. I'm going to put milk paint over the top, and that will chip back, and you never quite can tell with milk paint what's going to happen. So I like to have a base of all the same color for it to chip back to. And actually, I'm going to add a bit of water to this paint because it's really thick. Okay, so I'm just adding a little bit of water to thin down my paint. It helps it get down into the grooves and crevices of the moldings. A lot of times when I'm painting over molds, I'm not too picky about getting down into every nook and cranny. I tend to like a distressed look. However, in this case, because I'm going to be using the milk paint and having it chip back, I want to make sure that my undercoat is all solid, so it looks like these moldings were carved in originally and have just been there forever as part of the original piece. So I'm going to let it go ahead and just sit and really dry, and then I'm going to put a top coat on there to seal in the black. Black, especially with the mineral chalk paint, can kind of creep through your top coat, which I don't want. So we'll let it dry. I'll use just a water-based sealer, and then we'll be back. Okay, so we're back, and this has had a couple hours to dry. I decided I want to add some salt wash for some texture to just help blend in where these molds have been added. So I'm going to do that with brown paint. I'm going to add my salt wash to that. The directions for the salt wash are 1 part salt wash to 1 part paint. When I'm doing it for something like this though, I kind of just go by eye until I get at the consistency that I want for each project. So you just stir it into the paint. So it's combined. And this, if you have used the IOD transfers, they come with these transfer sticks. I never throw them away because inevitably when I go to open a new pack, my stick falls out or something and I can't find it. So I started just saving them in one spot. Then I can always find a transfer stick. But they also make really great paint stirrers. When I'm applying salt wash, I like to use an old brush, just a chip brush or something, because it can get the bristles kind of messed up. So I'm just going to come along the edges here. And what the salt wash does is give a nice thick texture to your paint. Helps give it a very old gunky look, kind of like it's been lots of layers of paint over the years. So I come right up under when I'm adding transfers like this. Or, sorry, when I'm adding molds like this. I just come right up under, butt it up against. It just kind of helps them blend in a little bit. If you've got cracks in between your molds as it dries, sometimes the air dry clay will leave little cracks. I like the cracks. I think it's part of the nice old world, been around for hundreds of years look. If you don't, you can use resin in the molds and that will dry without any cracks at all. But generally my style is pretty chippy old, and so I love the cracks. I embrace the cracking. Okay, so we have let this dry. I have sealed it, and then I went back just now with a little bit of acrylic sealer and put on in just a few spots where I especially want the paint to chip, which is something I haven't done before, but Zeb and Jamie over at Vintage Jamie Ray said that that kind of helps your milk paint peel better. So I just touched it up in a few spots where I really want to have some peely paint for sure. And then I mixed up my milk paint, and so we're ready to go. When I'm trying to get down into the details of the molds, I'll use kind of a stippling motion and then just brush across. I do like to paint the undersides of pieces like this. Sometimes they'll be put up high on a mantle or something for stacking purposes and display, and then you can see up under there. So it just makes a better finish. We resell in a booth and it just is a nicer product for the customers. I also tend to like to work from the top down on projects like this so that I've got a spot for my hands to kind of hang on to. Otherwise I tend to forget what I'm doing and grab the bottom wet part while I'm trying to do the top. Okay, so we are back and this is dry, and I have looked at it as far as another coat. Something that I didn't know the first times I used milk paint was that milk paint completely reactivates every time it gets wet. So if you are satisfied with the cracking and chipping that you have after one coat, just know that if you apply a second coat, you will likely get much more. So I like this level of chips and cracks. I love, like right in here, it's amazing cracking happening. And there's some beautiful chips up here. And I don't know that I want a lot more. So what I'm going to do with this piece is apply a clear wax, which will set the paint without creating more chips and cracks. And then I'm going to go over it and dark wax it, which means that you will see all of the texture, but these spots where it probably could use a second coat aren't going to be important because the dark wax is going to be on there. So let's go. I always apply my wax with a brush. It really doesn't take a lot to do a project. It's amazing how little it takes. I have had cans of wax dry up on me long before I've used them up. I'm going to wipe the clear wax back. Anytime I'm going to apply dark wax to something, I put clear wax on first. It helps me to have a lighter hand with the dark wax, which can quickly get out of hand and go overboard. Okay guys, real life moment here. We moved across the country a while ago, and when we did, my waxes got packed in with all of the household paint and something spilled. And my dark wax can is now permanently sealed to the top of this paint can. So when I want dark wax, I have to get the whole of everything. Okay, so for the dark wax, it does not take much. I kind of tend to offload my brush almost like I would were I stenciling. And then go in at it. Not everywhere, just kind of lightly. But I do want to, the brush is great for being able to get it down into the nooks and crannies. So it's not just floating on the high spots, which is the exact opposite of where crud would get. And really what we're doing with dark wax is imitating crud, I guess. At least that's what it seems to me. Why do I like crud on my painted furniture, but not my regular household goods? I don't know. Why do we like old things? I think I like the story that they tell, or that they could tell if I could listen. So many things are mass produced. Everybody has one and they're all the same. I like old stuff. Whoever made this in the first place and why were they making it? I don't know. But I do know it wasn't some kind of machine somewhere. As you're wiping it back, you can kind of start to see the magic of the dark wax as it fills in the cracks and crevices. If you've got spots where it seems to be grabbing a little much and wiping isn't taking it off, you can actually add just a tad of clear wax back in. Just take a little tad of the clear wax on your cloth and wipe it over, and it'll kind of pull off some of that dark. All right, you all, that is that. I really am pleased with the way it turns out. I will come in likely tomorrow and polish up the wax a little bit more and touch this spot right here. Forgot about it. Buff up the wax a bit, gives it a bit of a gloss and a really nice feel to it. But I am pleased for 50 cents and what started out as something that looked an awful lot like a bunch of 2x4s nailed together. I think that this has turned into a beautiful piece, something that I'd be proud to display. It'd be a perfect riser for setting up vignettes. I'm really excited about it. And at the end of the video, I will have staged photos and close-ups so you can see the finished product all fancied up. If you found anything helpful and useful in this video, would you do me a great big favor and push that like button for me? It helps me to know what kind of videos that you like, and it helps the algorithms so that other people like you can find the videos. Thanks so much for watching.